I just want you to talk because the top of the draft is fascinating to me. I host a podcast every week with Field and Mel and all that. We got the Titans at 1, we got the Browns at 2, we got the Giants at 3. They are all very much interrelated with each other. Take me through what we are expecting as of this moment at the top of the draft.
The Tennessee Titans hold all the cards at the top of the draft. If they decide that Cam Ward is their quarterback of the future, it's end of conversation. Nobody else can get up there. But if they decide that there's any uncertainty and they open it up, then I think the New York Giants absolutely would have interest in trading up to 1. The Cleveland Browns might have interest in trading up to 1. And the Titans could get a whole lot in return to move back to get one of these other elite players. But if they stick on Cam Ward, and I think the feeling is that that's going to be the case. They're not there yet, but there's mounting evidence that that'll be the case. Cam Ward goes 1. It leaves Cleveland at 2. Now, I think Cleveland was hoping to get Cam Ward, but it doesn't look like he's going to be available unless they trade up, in which case they're looking at the idea that Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, the two best players in this draft, would be there for Cleveland to choose from. They could pick one or the other, setting up the possibility that the New York Giants, who have been in the dark, waiting on Aaron Rodgers, waiting for a quarterback solution, tried to trade up to number 3 last year to get Drake May and couldn't, and now find themselves at the number 3 spot this year, might be in position to take the quarterback that a lot of people have linked to them earlier back in the season when Shedeur Sanders had his giant cleats at the Alamo Bowl. So New York could be in position to take Shedeur Sanders, which would be a great scenario for the New England Patriots, because if 2 quarterbacks go in front of the Patriots at 4, that would leave one of the elite players falling to them at 4, and that would be how the first 4 picks potentially could be shaping up today, 5 weeks from the NFL draft.
And we may not know until we get a whole lot closer, including on the clock, what some of these decisions are going to wind up being. So let's focus on the Giants for a minute here, because they're an interesting team here. It strikes me they have 2 options. And I can do something that I used to do on the radio called unsolicited advice. The Giants don't need advice from me, but I'm going to give it to them anyway. Here's the bottom line. If you love Shedeur Sanders, that's the end of the conversation.
Yep.
Assuming that he's there, you take him. He's your quarterback of the future, and you go forward. But if, indeed, you would be making a selection there because you need an answer at quarterback and you haven't otherwise found one, here's my solution. Sign one of these veterans. Russell Wilson seems like the perfect option. He'll come here to the New York area. I think he would really like the chance to play in New York. And obviously, he's a competent and seasoned veteran. Let him hold down the fort for a little while. Take one of the 2 outstanding stars in this draft at number 3, whether it's Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, whichever one is sitting there or whichever one you like better. And then, again, I will keep saying this name, Tyler Shough, quarterback, Louisville. He's going to be, I think, the 4th quarterback taken in this draft. I think there is a real chance that happens in round 1. If it doesn't, the Giants have the 2nd pick in round 2, so they can figure out a way to sort of maneuver their way around that. But that feels to me like a really nice path towards having the bridge quarterback, towards having the young developmental quarterback, and getting an outstanding player on your roster all at once. So they don't need advice from me, but I'm offering it anyway. What do you think?
So I think that's plan B for the New York Giants. I love everything that you just said.
What was plan A?
Plan A, you draft Shedeur at number 3.
That's it.
Okay, so, I mean, that's the direction you would go.
Yeah, because you look at a guy, everyone can't play in the city of New York, or I should say in New Jersey. No one can play in this market. But, you know, a guy that's mentally tough, we know Shedeur Sanders, he has the cachet. You talk about a pocket passer, a guy that can make the throws. A lot of people, they're hung up on this arm strength thing. I don't care how strong your arm is if you can't be accurate, if you can't anticipate throws. Shedeur Sanders does both of those things. And I also love, like, when the game is on the line, he has the ability to make plays, and he doesn't shy away from making plays, and he shows up in the biggest moments as well. So I love all those things about Shedeur Sanders, and I love the fact that he has a father that has taken him through a mist of things growing up. He knows how to be a pro. I love second-generational kids.
Yeah.
Because, number one, they're accustomed to having money. They understand what the lifestyle is like because they grew up with their father or mother that may have played a respected sport. So Shedeur Sanders is the guy for me.
Yeah, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is a good example of that. His father was not a football player, but he's a baseball player, so understands a lot of the dynamics, grew up around it, all that. Yes, to be clear, if they love Shedeur Sanders, then yes, that's the plan.
But love is the key word.
You take them there. But that's the key, is don't take a quarterback at 3 just because you feel like you need to. That's really what I'm trying to say.
Right.
I'm not a scout. I'm not an analyst. I can't tell you how good Shedeur Sanders is or isn't going to be. What do you think?
No, I think he laid it out perfectly. If you don't love Shedeur Sanders, I love the option of going with the veteran guy. picking a guy that can impact you. That's why if Travis Hunter there, I mean, that's great. Guy who can impact both sides of the ball and then come back in the first round and, in the bottom half of the first round and get your quarterback. I think that, to me, if that scenario were to play itself out, I think that's a big-time home run for the Giants.
A couple of things here. They're in a division where the other quarterbacks are Jayden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, and Dak Prescott.
Right. Preach that gospel. Preach the gospel.
You better find somebody. Now, you might punt on that possibility this year with the 3rd overall pick, but this is a team that has spent an inordinate amount of time on these top quarterbacks. They know everything they need to know about Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. And, again, I don't know exactly where they came out on both those quarterbacks and how they feel, but it's going to be hard to bypass one of these quarterbacks if you feel strongly about them in that division with those other quarterbacks.
Maybe the person we need to ask is Joe Shane's son. He might know exactly. He was the one advocating for Jayden Daniels last year.
He was on that.
He was on that early. So maybe that's the person we need to talk to.
Well, keep an eye on all this. Again, we got a few weeks until we get to that. In the meantime, the madness of March begins over here. Someone's got to figure out what is happening. The entire world is waiting for Aaron Rodgers and that domino to fall. The 4-time MVP continues to keep teams in the dark. We use that word on purpose. We now know the Vikings are sort of out of the sweepstakes. Let's get the latest on his timeline here as teams wait for the decision. That sort of was treated as quote-unquote news yesterday. Schefter, you've been saying forever, like Rodgers to the Vikings is extremely unlikely. Conversations are taking place about everything. It's still going to depend on whether or not J.J. McCarthy is ready to be fully healthy. But at this moment, it feels like Steelers or Giants, and we're just waiting for Rodgers to make a decision.
Well, you're right. Now the other teams know what it's like to be in the dark. That's exactly right. Because everybody's waiting on Aaron Rodgers. And the Steelers would like an answer. The Giants would like an answer. But there's nothing that's pushing Aaron Rodgers right now to give them that answer. It's not like anybody's got a game this week. It's not like anybody's got a game next month. It's not like there's organized team activities till, next month the offseason workout program starts. And so everybody's waiting. And I think Aaron Rodgers privately has been, and maybe even continues to be, waiting for the Minnesota Vikings, who are not willing to move in that direction right now because they're committed to J.J. McCarthy. So while Aaron waits for the idea that maybe one day the Vikings could open up, the Vikings are not thinking like that right now. He's not in any rush. The Pittsburgh Steelers would like an answer. He hasn't given them one. The Giants would like an answer. He hasn't given them one. And these other quarterbacks that are out there, Russell Wilson, Joe Flacco, Jameis Winston, Carson Wentz, again, nobody knows exactly what Aaron Rodgers is going to do. Now, at some point in time, the Steelers or the Giants or Russell Wilson may decide we're ready to move no matter what his decision